You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Today, as we get started on our Training Thursday show, we're going to talk about why it's vitally important to train the muscles that you don't see. So what does that mean? Well, it means that when you look in the mirror, you get to see all of the muscles on the front of your body. And that's called the anterior chain. That basically means, like when you're looking from, let's say, chin down, we're looking at all the SCM muscles in the neck, and we're looking at the pectoral muscles of the chest. We can see the bicep muscles on the arms. We can see the anterior deltoids of the shoulders. We can see the forearm flexors, and then we kind of move down. We can see our abs. We can see our psoas muscles, those hip flexors right there. Then we can see all the muscles of the quadricep, and then below that, we can just see like the anterior tibialis and other of those lower leg muscles. So that's great. And here's the issue though. It's that those are the ones we typically want to train when we're at the gym or working out on our own. That's not really that much of an issue. The issue is that we become imbalanced because of this, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, and all the certain issues that go along with that, because there are a lot. So it's totally normal. You see a muscle in the mirror and you want to work it because you can see it flex. You can see it kind of tone up right before your eyes. And all of those things, like I said, are great. So there's no problem with training your chest and your shoulders and your biceps and your quads and anything else, and your abs as well. But the issue, the larger issue is that, believe it or not, the more metabolic muscles are typically on the other side of your body. They are the larger muscle group. So when we look at it, like your lats on the back of your back are the ones that kind of give you that V taper, right? They pull down things. So those are the largest muscle group in the upper body. And then we look at the lower body, the glutes are going to be the largest muscle in the lower body. And the hamstrings too. People don't train the hamstrings enough. Even though they are small on most people, they're actually supposed to be a large muscle group, and they just get neglected. I'm going to talk about them a lot in just a moment as well. So no matter what your goal, like here's the thing. Say you're 60 plus and listen to this. If your goal is fall prevention and just trying to keep your strength up, then great. You'll want to maintain that by really working on your posture and your postural muscles and your hamstrings and your glutes and all of those things, because that's what's going to keep you strong and balanced. And if your goal is body transformation or symmetry and looking good, well, no bigger reason than to start doing your Romanian deadlifts and those hamstring and glute and back-based exercises, again, which I'm going to give you all of those exercises in a moment as well. So that's the importance of them. They're more metabolic. They're also going to help you with more posture. So by working your back muscles like your rhomboids and like your trapezius muscles, which start at the base of the neck, the top of the neck, they go all the way to the shoulders, and they actually wrap it around the middle of the back as well. That's what helps you not only keep your head back, but also keep your shoulders back as well. Those traps and those rhomboids, really, really important. That's what allows you to stand with good posture without you having to exaggerate it, where you just kind of pull your shoulders back, you kind of like arch your lower back to get your posture in good shape. We don't want that. People always say, when I'm trying to work with people on their posture, they kind of give me that exaggerated posture right away. We don't want that. We want posture to be very natural, very strong all on its own. And then when I'm talking about why people have lower back pain, why people have knee pain, it is because of something called quadricep dominance. This is one of the reasons. So what happens is, especially in runners, there was actually a really good recent study in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning. So in this journal, it showed that the majority of running-based injuries, especially to the knees, come from people being too strong in the quadriceps, which are all the muscles right above the knee on the front of your leg. That's your vastus lateralis, medialis, all those great muscles in the front of the leg. I'm not going to go through and bore you. And what that means is those muscles become too dominant from runners, basically also with improper form, right? So they're doing long distance. They're using that front leg as they land to almost break, and that strength strengthening the quadriceps, but it's not allowing them to also strengthen the hamstrings, which really get a lot more work during sprinting. So what we want to do is we actually want to do things, I'm going to get to those exercises in just a moment, like the Romanian deadlifts, to work those hamstrings so that they become stronger. So again, if you're already quad dominant, it means lay off a little bit on your quad work. You can still do the one-legged squats, things like that. That's fantastic. But start to work more of those hamstrings and especially the glutes. Now, why are the glutes important? Well, the glutes are important for a big reason because so many people have lower back pain, right? So many people have lower back tightness and stiffness and all sorts of issues. And they have that lordotic curve in their spine or the lordosis where there's this overarching of the lower back. And what happens is if you look at your hips as basically a bucket and that bucket's tilted a little bit forward, tipping forward, the water's kind of spilling out if you look in the mirror. That means those hip bones, that iliac crest right there is tilted a little forward. Well, what happens with that, not only do the lower back muscles get tight, the erector spinae area right there, what happens as well is it's imbalanced because the glutes are too weak and also the hip flexors, which are in the front of the body, the psoas muscles, not kind of the TFL, but the psoas right in front that a lot of people have heard of. Those attach to the spine, and when they get tight, they pull that bucket of your hips forward, and that creates that arching in your lower back. So even if you're trying to fix your posture just by like correcting that arch in your lower back, and you're not doing it through opening your hip flexors, like a great warrior pose from yoga or just a kneeling lunge pose or any lunges, the actual exercise, or Bulgarian split squat, you are not going to sufficiently correct that lower back issue. So remember, everyone, like even in massage and even in chiropractic, even in an active release, like all these things are great, but you still have to go a level deeper. Like, okay, the lower back is hurting, but why is the lower back hurting? Very rarely, like, is the lower back the culprit. The lower back's supposed to be pretty stiff and stable. The issue is the hips are supposed to be mobile, and the thoracic spine, which is right above your lower back, is supposed to be mobile as well. And when they're not mobile, when they're locked up from us sitting for too long or doing improper exercises, what happens is the lower back is then forced to move to a greater degree. And so if your lower back rotates a little too much, or you bend over with a rounded back, and you are not already with good core strength and good balance, you end up getting an L4, L5, or some other type of spine-based injury. And again, like, this is biomechanical. The issue was with pre-existing based issues that led to that. Like bending over to tie your shoes or grab the paper or pick up your kids shouldn't lead to a lower back injury, right? It's because we have these imbalances and they've never been corrected because for the most part, they don't teach these things during, a normal, let's just say a personal training course. Like if you meet with a personal trainer, and of course they're not in books, and of course they're not an online workout. However, if you meet with a good personal trainer that's certified through like the National Academy of Sports Medicine or one of those great organizations, maybe the National Strength and Conditioning Association, maybe the American College of Sports Medicine, like all of our people are, that's a prerequisite, is because you're going to have the basis to understand why people will get injured in the first place. So if you already know that, and then you can create workouts to also then compensate, almost what we call prehab, so that you don't get injured. Now that's really the best of both worlds. So let's talk about that right now. How can you prehab your body? How can you get your body working so that you don't end up with these neck and shoulder and back problems, or you don't end up with this poor posture? One other thing, if you're just worried about aesthetics too, like you want your body to look the best possible, there's a lot of guys walking in right now, and women as well. And, I'm not picking on CrossFit at all, but a lot of CrossFitters, and they have a bulging stomach. Now, they have great abs. Don't get me wrong. Fantastic abs. Yes, I'm not denying that. But their stomach just sticks out. It just protrudes almost like a little pumpkin. And you can see the lines of where their abs would be, but when they're at rest, when they're not actually flexing it, it just sticks out. And one of the reasons is, again, those tight psoas muscles, that anterior pelvic tilt where everything's pulled forward, and just too much anterior chain dominance. Maybe too much squatting, not enough RDLs, maybe not enough pull-throughs, maybe just not enough bridging, right? Not enough Supermans to actually open up those psoas or hip flexor based muscles. And again, that can lead to it. Too much rowing, that for sure, that's a big one as well. If you're not opening up, again, those psoas muscles once you're done with the rowing. Because I love rowing. I think rowing's a fantastic exercise. So what are some of the exercises right now? Because I always want to give you action tips, right? I never want to leave you on a podcast saying, okay, that was great information, but now what am I supposed to do with it? Now I feel like everything I'm doing is incorrect. What am I supposed to be doing? Okay, well, here's the thing. Whatever you're doing for chest exercises, so like a chest press, or maybe even a vertical press, like a shoulder press, I need you to balance that at least a 1-to-1, which means I need you, if you're doing a chest press, I need you to do a one-arm row or some type of rowing movement, okay? Same workout ideally. Now, if you're doing a shoulder press, I need to do some type of lat pull down or an assisted pull-up. That works fantastic as well. Or chin up, that would work too. And if you are doing, let's say, a front squat, I want you to also do I've mentioned a few times now, a Romanian deadlift, right? So what is a Romanian deadlift? What is this great exercise that almost hardly anyone does unless they've kind of worked with an exercise professional before? Well, Romanian deadlift can be done in a lot of different ways. You can actually just hold dumbbells by your sides, pull your shoulder blades back to start for good posture, and you just start to sit back with your hips. You just keep about a 10 to 20 degree bend in your knees. It looks stiff-legged, but it's not. And you keep your eyes forward. You're keeping your back neutral, which means not rounding your spine as you start to stretch down. And it's almost like, don't rotate your arms forward, but it's almost like you're just trying to stretch down and touch your toes, almost like you're doing a hamstring stretch. Now, again, this is a podcast, right? But you can look up a Romanian deadlift. And what I'll do is I'll try to get some great images for the show notes page as well. So just go to stevencabral.com/341, or of course, just go to the podcast page. You can always find the page that I'm talking about. Now, what I want you to do is always remember good posture, because you can get injured doing a Romanian deadlift. Because what's it doing? Well, it's training you to pick things up with straighter legs, right? And that's one of the ways that you can get injured if you round out your lower back, or if you're not pushing your hips back behind your heels, meaning your glutes, your butt back behind your heels as you're doing that. Now, that Romanian deadlift, it works your gastroc, your calves, your soleus. You're working your hamstring muscles, which are semimembranosus, semitendinosus, your bicep femoris, which are two muscles in there as well. That's the back of your leg, the opposite of your quadricep. And that's working your glutes. And there's basically three main parts to the glutes, lots of other muscles as well, but you're working your glute medius, glute minimus, and glute maximus. Now, those are hugely metabolic muscles. So not only is that going to boost your metabolism, right? But it's also going to, again, help balance your quadricep dominance. So if you play sports, you run, you have to do this exercise. You're not getting it as much with biking, and you're not getting as much with running. Now, at the top of that Romanian deadlift, remember to squeeze your glutes at the top. That will help open up your hip flexors and work your glutes to a greater degree. So that is my number one pick, my number one exercise for you. And there's lots of different ways to do it. You can also hold the dumbbell against your chest if you're a beginner, and you can just start by keeping your eyes forward, sit back with your hips. It's always the same movement. Sit back with your hips, legs are almost stiff, but they're not, about 20 degree bend. That will help take the pressure off your lower back. And you know, the Brave Warrior also from yoga is kind of like a good morning, kind of like a Romanian deadlift. So you're getting the hamstring there. Not exactly the same, but you're still working a little bit. I do recommend the weight-based exercises, especially when you're working your posterior chain. You just have to balance all of that anterior chain, front of the body work that you're doing. Besides that, again, there's a lot of great exercises. Stay away from the machines. Stick to your free weights. So you can use a kettlebell. You can do a kettlebell swing. That is a great posterior chain movement for the most part. You are working your core, but you're also opening up those hip flexors that you squeeze your glutes to the top, and you're stretching your hamstrings back. So love that. That's a great exercise as well. And then one more, let's give you two more. Two more would be, one would be just lying on your back. This is for everybody, for beginners, for advanced, because you can make it as advanced as you want, is a bridge. And you can keep your arms on the ground for now. You're simply going to keep both feet on the ground, almost like a sit-up position, but you're going to lift your hips up into the air by keeping your head and shoulders on the ground and your soles of the feet on the ground. Everything else lifts up. So you're basically at a diagonal from your shoulders all the way up to your knees. That is an incredible exercise. Try to squeeze a towel between your knees, or squeeze a small 6-inch mile ball between your knees. Incredible for building up that posterior chain, and also getting the adductors, which are the inner thighs. Amazing exercise. Everyone has to be doing that for lifelong good lower back health. Now, if you have high blood pressure, then you will do that on a stability ball and keep your head level with your knees. The other one would be the Supermans. And the Supermans is just lying face down, arms outstretched overhead, legs outstretched behind you, and you're trying to lift your arms and legs off the ground at the same time so that only your hips and abdomen touch the ground, and you squeeze your glutes. And again, you squeeze your hamstrings and your lower back. That's the whole posterior chain. There are, let's say, 100 different variations of the bridge, 100 different variations of the Supermans, on a Bosu ball, on a stability ball. So there's this amazing thing called Google, and you can type in Supermans and you can type in bridging, and you will see great variations of that. Again, I'll put up some nice little photos as well to add to the show notes page so that you know what you're looking at. You know what good form is, because remember, I'm making a little bit of joke about that. But the big thing is there's some really bad form out there too, and I don't want you to follow bad form. I wish I had all the time to be able to shoot all these videos and put that up as well. But for right now, at least, this is the best that I can do. So what I will do is I'll get some of those photos up for really good form. And of course, you know what? My book, what's it called? A Man's Guide to Muscle and Strength. Again, it's not just for men. It's just as much for women. And you can see a lot of those exercises in there, like literally all the best exercises you could do are right in that book. You can just use it as a reference. I'm not promoting the book. You can buy it from anywhere that you want. I think I make 50 cents or $1 on each sale. So it's not like I'm, trying to get rich off selling you a book. So hopefully that information helps. This actually came in from a question that I got from a house call that I wanted to turn into a bigger episode because honestly, this is one of those topics that's not talked about a lot, but it's one of the reasons why people deal with all this neck pain, shoulder pain, scapula-based pain, like in the back of the shoulder, the winging scapula, they get the lower back issues. So I'm telling you, you start to do these exercises, I see transformations happen in a period of about 4 to 6 weeks if you really stick to it. So stick to it. I'm telling you, it's well worth it. And you're going to be working out anyways, so you might as well keep your programs balanced. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Have a great day.
Before you go, I wanted to share a personal story with you. The real reason I began to get well finally is because I figured out what was wrong with me. And that might seem pretty obvious, but I went from doctor to doctor for over 2 years before discovering at-home functional medicine lab testing. These are the labs that enabled me to finally figure out what was wrong with my hormones, blood sugar, electrolytes, and gut health. And once I knew what was wrong, I could then follow a proven plan in order to rebalance my body from the inside out. This is why I believe so strongly in functional medicine lab testing and why I've made it my mission to share these labs with the world. Now at equa.life, you can order an at-home lab test or lab bundle for you and your family and be able to complete it within the week. Plus, the EquaLife difference is that you're not left to try to read and figure out these labs on your own. We explain what your lab numbers mean, what they mean in the much bigger picture, and then how to go about rebalancing your body in order to heal. To see our full selection of lab tests or to set up a free lab selection call to find out what labs may be best for you, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. And do remember, we ship these all over the world. To find out more and to set up your free lab selection call, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. That's EQUI.LIFE/labs.